It's day 1148 of the Trump administration, 236 days to go until the 2020 presidential election. As this country now grapples with the concerns over coronavirus, there are many more stark signs of the outbreak's deepening impact. Wall Street witnessed yet another meltdown, the worst day there since 1987. Despite the Federal Reserve promising to inject at least $1.5 trillion worth of money into the financial system, the Dow sank 10%. For the second time this week, the rapid stock sell-off triggered a halt in trading. Yet even as today's markets were in free fall, the president was sounding optimistic about the financial future.
We have a lot of things that we're working on with the financial markets, and it's going to work out fine. You know, you have to remember the stock market, as an example, is still much higher than when I got here. And it's taken a big hit, but it's going to all bounce back, and it's going to bounce back very big at the right time.
Going to bounce back very big at the right time. Tonight, Trump's former director of the National Economic Council offered up his assessment.
We are in a recession right now. We are having negative growth right now, and the market is pricing in that uncertainty. The good news is we did start from a very strong position just 3 weeks ago.
Efforts in Congress to ease the vast economic impact of the coronavirus continue. Tonight, House Democrats said they are close to a deal with the Trump administration on an emergency aid package for those affected by the outbreak. Nancy Pelosi and Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin have been negotiating all day. We know of at least 8 phone calls between them today alone. Tonight, Pelosi says they hope to reach a final agreement tomorrow. In a letter to Democrats tonight, the speaker said the bill would provide free testing for those in need, emergency leave, and 2 weeks of paid sick leave, enhanced unemployment insurance and food programs, and more money for Medicaid. In the meantime, the number of U.S. coronavirus cases in this country continues to climb. There are well over 1,600 confirmed cases here now, and at least 41 deaths. And the number of closures and cancellations across the nation is also quickly rising. Disney and Universal, MSNBC's parent company, are shutting down theme parks. College basketball's March Madness is canceled. Pro hockey's season is suspended until further notice, and the MLB is delaying the start of the baseball season. And just a short time ago, news that Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's wife has tested positive for the new coronavirus. Trudeau, who spoke with President Trump today about the outbreak, is now under self-quarantine as his wife recovers. Now, during last night's primetime address, Trump rolled out a travel ban from Europe scheduled to take effect in just over 24 hours. Tonight, the Washington Post reports the president realized today that his speech last night did little to calm fears about coronavirus. Quote, Trump, who believed that by giving the speech he would appear in command and his remarks would reassure financial markets and the country, was in an unusually foul mood and sounded at times apoplectic on Thursday as he watched stocks tumble and digested widespread criticism of his speech. Today at the White House, Trump defended his decision while also seeming to open the door to limits on travel within the U.S.
A lot of people went from China into Europe, and Europe suffered tremendously. You know, you see what's going on. And so I just wanted that to stop as it pertains to the United States, and that's what we've done.
Are you considering any travel restrictions within the United States, such as to Washington State or California?
We haven't discussed that yet. Is it a possibility? Yes, if somebody gets a little bit out of control, if an area gets too hot. And I don't want people dying. That's what I'm all about.
Now, one of the main obstacles to fighting the outbreak in the United States continues to be a lack of testing. Today, Dr. Anthony Fauci, the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, was very candid when he spoke to Congress about the testing shortage.
The system is not really geared to what we need right now, what you are asking for. That is a failing.
And failing, yes.
It is a failing. I mean, let's admit it. The idea of anybody getting it easily, the way people in other countries are doing it, we're not set up for that. Do I think we should be? Yes, but we're not.
Now, down the street at the White House, the president had a very different take on testing.
They have 1 million tests out now. They're going to have, over the next few days, they're going to have 4 million tests out. And frankly, the testing has been going very smooth. Millions are being produced. This is a brand new thing that just happened, but millions are being produced.
Today, even some Republican lawmakers were fact-checking the president.
That's obviously the goal, is to be able to get testing for everybody who wants testing, to be able to get it, and to be able to get it in multiple locations. But that's not accurate right now.
I mean, should you stop saying that?
Yeah, people should not say, if you want a test, you go get a test right now.
Now, amid all of this, it appears Donald Trump has had another close brush with coronavirus. The press secretary for the Brazilian president, who reportedly has now tested positive for the virus, dined with the president in Mar-a-Lago this past weekend. Senator Lindsey Graham was there, too. His office has announced he's in self-quarantine. Today, the White House issued a statement that said, in part, both the president and vice president had almost no interactions with the individual who tested positive and do not require being tested at this time. And today, Trump seemed unworried.
We did nothing very unusual. We sat next to each other for a period of time, had a great conversation. Let's put it this way, I'm not concerned.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.